The news that a daughter had been born reached Thomas at the logging camp office, right on payday. The men, having received their rubles, were already dispersing, clattering empty diesel cans, but he remained standing at the gate, clutching crumpled bills in his hand. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Thomas hissed through his teeth, spitting into the sawdust. "I told a woman, give me a boy. No, she had to foist a girl on me." Anger and resentment toward his wife, Mary, boiled inside him. It burned so hot that the thought of going home to an empty cabin where he wouldn't even hear a woman's voice now was completely repelling. While Mary and the newborn struggled in the district hospital, Thomas packed his meager belongings into a canvas bag, stuffed in a change of clothes and a crust of bread, and left for his mother's house in the neighboring village, 15 miles away. 2 weeks later, Mary returned with her firstborn to an empty house. She entered, looked around the unusually tidy room, laid the blanket-wrapped bundle on the bed, and sat beside it, dropping her head into her hands. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. The baby girl, a tiny bundle with a funny little fold on the back of her neck, lay quietly. Mary looked at her and thought bitterly, who could have known that you, my own blood, would be the one to drive us apart? Thomas was a burly man with a heavy jaw and a temperament the village called stern. He didn't tolerate objections, any word against him was a personal insult. He was obsessed with the idea of having a son, an heir. Being the youngest after 2 sisters, he felt the family name rested solely on him. And now a girl. A useless burden. Thomas's mother tried to negotiate with him, to reason with him, but he stood firm, until she gets rid of that girl, I'm not coming back. And those 15 miles became an insurmountable abyss for Mary. Mary threw herself into work. In 1957, there was no such thing as maternity leave, she had to mind the house and work at the farm. To please her husband, in the secret hope of softening his heart, she named the girl Alexandra, at least the name had a masculine ring to it. The girl grew surprisingly strong and calm. No crying, no tantrums. By 1 year old, she was inseparable from a wooden rocking horse a neighbor had carved for her. She walked and talked early. By 18 months, she was chattering non-stop and racing through the house like a whirlwind. In daycare, Alex immediately became a leader. Quick, strong, and sharp, every boy her age yielded to her. At 3, she could easily silence a 5-year-old bully. Her character was becoming clear, she didn't go to just anyone's arms, and she didn't listen to just anyone. She ran around the yard in a patched shirt, armed with a willow switch, chasing away stray cows. Where did such courage come from in such a little girl? Meanwhile, Thomas found solace. He took up with a divorced woman named Claudia, who already had 2 children. At first, he went out of boredom, but Claudia was a cunning woman and drew him in. Thomas liked her, she was soft, spoke no cross words, and only admired him. I'll give you a child, Tom, she would promise. The best kind. Give me a son. Thomas would grumble, though his voice was no longer so harsh. But time passed, and Claudia did not get pregnant. Thomas began to frown, it had been 2 years, and there was no result. Raising someone else's children held little appeal, he wanted his own. Then, rumors reached his new village, they said his daughter, Alex, was growing up just like a boy. Strong, brave, and fair. Only 3 years old, yet tougher than any lad. Thomas's mother pressed him again, go, look at the child. Blood isn't water. Thomas might not have gone, but he found some strange dried roots and herbal pouches hidden in Claudia's pantry. Doubt crept into his soul. He heard she had been visiting a local medicine woman. That same day, Thomas packed his things, slammed the door so hard the glass rattled, and left. Claudia screamed after him that the roots were for health, to conceive a child faster, but he wasn't listening. And so, after nearly 4 years, Thomas stepped over the threshold of his own home. He saw his daughter for the first time. Thin, messy head, in a faded cotton skirt, she stood in the middle of the room, looking at him from under her brows, watchful and suspicious. A stranger. She did not rush to take the gingerbread he pulled from his pocket. "Look at her glare," Thomas grumbled, feeling uncomfortable under the child's gaze. "I suppose you coached her?" He looked resentfully at his wife. Mary, beaming with happiness at her husband's return, waved her hands. "Oh, Tom. I only ever spoke well of you. I hoped you'd come back to us." Mary loved her husband despite his hardness. Or rather, his cruelty. Thomas could express his anger with a single fist slam on the table. Soon, he began to raise his hand against her. By the time Alex was 5, she understood a lot. As soon as her father looked heavily at her mother, his brows furrowing, Alex would bunch into a ball and shake her tiny fist. "You meanie. I'll get you." The fist was small and childish, but Thomas grew angry, seeing in his young daughter the very defiance he suppressed in himself. Thomas calmed down briefly when Mary gave birth to a son, Paul. From infancy, Paul's care fell to Alex. She carried him on her back while their mother worked, fed him with a spoon, and looked after him until he could walk. Thomas was glad, but his joy was silent and cold. He still drove the family hard. Mary would listen to his curses submissively, ready to endure anything as long as he didn't hit her. But Alex, now 7, would stomp her foot and shout, "I'm going to tell the policeman on you." Thomas nearly jumped with rage. "You little sprout. Who do you think you're talking to?" He lunged at her, but Alex was nimble. She slipped away and threatened him from a safe distance. He tried to whip her with a switch once. Alex stayed silent. No tears. She just gritted her teeth. Thomas thought he had re-educated her. But the next day, Alex actually brought the local officer to the house. Mary gasped, not expecting such stubbornness from her daughter. She rushed to defend Thomas. "Officer, surely a man can discipline his own child? Thomas is a hard worker, he provides." The officer, John Sterling, took off his cap and wiped his brow. "Mary, keep in mind, this could reach the district. Then your husband will really be in trouble. For now, a warning." Thomas stood with his head down, feigning shame. From that day on, he was more careful with Alex. He didn't fear her exactly, but he stayed on guard. Sometimes he'd mutter through his teeth, "You little animal." Mary, thinking the storm had passed, gave birth to a third child, a girl named Natalie. "Just my luck," Thomas grunted. He looked at the newborn and walked out of the room. He had almost nothing to do with Natalie. Alex ended up raising her, too. Alex finished 8th grade and announced she was going to the city to study. Thomas turned purple. "And what will you eat?" he roared. "You want to sit on our necks? We've fed you long enough." At 15, Alex was strong and solid. Her heavy fists could handle any boy in the village. "I'm going," she said firmly. "I'm going to study." "Don't you glare at me," Thomas threatened. "I won't give you a dime. I'm not asking for any. Just feed the little ones, Dad." Thomas grabbed a belt, but Alex grabbed a heavy fire poker from the stove. "Just try it. I'll maim you." Mary cried out, throwing herself between them. Thomas, looking at his daughter's resolute face and the heavy iron in her hands, realized she would strike. He dropped the belt and stormed out, cursing. "Go," Mary whispered, wiping tears. "Just go." The city met Alex with noise and the smell of gasoline. She chose a mechanical college. She was drawn to machines and tools. She passed her exams easily, her natural grit and schoolwork paid off. In the dorms, she met her roommate, Val, a bubbly girl whose only interest was finding a husband. "Alex, look at the guys in our year," Val would gush. "Especially Andrew. They say his father is a big boss." "I don't care," Alex would shrug, buried in her textbooks. "I came here to learn." Alex worked as a cleaner at a textile factory in the evenings to support herself. She didn't take a penny from her mother. Their hydraulics professor, Andrew Sterling, appeared in their third year young, fit, in a sharp grey suit and glasses. In a room full of rowdy students, he looked almost defenseless. "Hello," he began quietly. "My name is Mr. Sterling." "Hey, Andy." A loud voice mocked from the back. "Sonny boy." The class laughed. Sterling flushed and tried to continue, but the noise grew. Alex watched silently. She felt a sudden surge of protectiveness for this man who was trying to teach while being mocked. "Enough!" she shouted, standing up. The room went silent. Everyone turned. "If you don't shut up, I'm throwing you out," she glared at the ringleaders. "I need this degree. I'm here to work, not listen to you lot. Either sit quietly or get out." She sat down. Silence fell. Everyone knew Alex's reputation. It wasn't worth the trouble to cross her. She caught the professor's eye. He looked at her with surprise and gratitude. He nodded slightly and continued the lecture. Alex graduated, but she didn't find happiness immediately. She married a man named Victor, a quiet, seemingly steady worker. But as soon as their daughter, Sarah, was born, Victor changed. He became lazy, indifferent, and spent his nights drinking with friends. "I'm not a slave," he'd snap when Alex confronted him. Remembering her mother's life of enduring, Alex felt a cold chill. "No," she thought. "I won't live like that." "Victor," she said one night. "Either you change, or we're done." He laughed drunkenly. "Where will you go with a kid?" "Watch me," she replied. She filed for divorce the next morning. Years passed. Alex worked hard, raised Sarah, and stayed independent. One evening, in a small cafe, she saw a man sitting alone with a book. It was Andrew Sterling, her old professor. He looked older, with grey in his hair and tired eyes. "Alexandra?" he asked, smiling. They talked for hours. He was divorced too, living alone and building a house in the countryside. They began to see each other. Andrew wasn't like her father or Victor. He was kind, intellectual, and respected her strength. One Sunday, he invited her to see his unfinished house. It was a quiet, secluded spot. Suddenly, a truck pulled up. Two men jumped out and began eyeing the construction materials. "Stay inside, Alex," Andrew whispered. "They've been stealing from here lately." Andrew went out to confront them. The men were aggressive. One pulled a knife. "You want to die, Four Eyes?" The door flew open. Alex charged out, gripping an axe she had found in the shed. "Back off!" she screamed. "Get out of here now!" The men froze. The fury in her eyes was so terrifying they backed away, jumped into their truck, and sped off. Andrew stood there, pale. He looked at Alex, then at the axe in her hand. Not with fear, but with pure admiration. "Alex. You could have been hurt. They would have killed you," she said, lowering the axe. "I couldn't let that happen." He stepped forward and hugged her. For the first time, Alex felt she didn't have to be the man of the house anymore, even though she had just saved one. She was a woman who was loved for her strength, not punished for it. They married a month later. Even Thomas and Mary came to the wedding. Thomas sat in the corner, grumbling, but he watched Andrew closely. Andrew approached him with a glass. "Thomas, thank you for coming. Thank you for your daughter." Thomas looked at Alex in her cream-colored dress, then at his granddaughter Sarah, who was already calling Andrew Dad. "Take care of her," Thomas said hoarsely. "She's got a temper. But she's good. She's like her mother." It was the first kind word Alex had ever heard from him. Years later, the house was finished. It was a beautiful home with large windows and an apple orchard that Alex had planted. Thomas became a frequent visitor, sitting on the porch with Andrew, talking about life. One evening, Alex, Andrew, and Sarah sat on the veranda watching the sunset. "Mom," Sarah asked, "are you happy?" Alex looked at her husband, her daughter, and the peaceful garden. She remembered the hunger, the belt, the lonely nights, and the struggle. "Yes," she said simply. "I am." Andrew put his arm around her. The wind stirred the apple trees, and Alex knew that for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was meant to be. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means the world to me. See you in the next video.